Hi guys, welcome back to Daytime. Dr. Guy Bahar is here from the Posture Clinic here in York Region. Today we are talking about one of the silent killers, blood pressure, and how it all relates to what, your spine, Dr. Guy?
Well, we're going to talk about some connection between the spine and elevations in blood pressure. Most people will realize that a lot of common conditions that cause blood pressure are the ones that they're familiar with, like bad diet, too much salt, and stress, and not enough exercise. But people are taking blood pressure medications to combat these things, and so for some cases it's quite effective, but they're not really looking at proper lifestyle changes that could actually enhance better heart function.
Okay, so we always hear about exercise, we always hear about sort of the stretching, but we never hear about the back and blood pressure. Like, are those two things just not assumed to be connected at all?
Well, as I said, this is why, in order to understand the connection, this is why I brought my spine over here, because it's important to look at the anatomy more specifically. So they've done several research studies that focused on primarily the upper part of the spine, namely the atlas. The atlas is the first bone in the spine where the head rests on. Okay, so what the studies were showing was how much the effects of the C1 and C2 vertebrae play on the role of the autonomic nervous system. The autonomic nervous system controls things like heart rate and breathing. And so what they found was that if there was compression on the head on top of that C1 vertebrae, it will not only compress the nerves but also the arteries. So it's going to affect the artery flow and the nerve flow.
Okay.
It's all connected.
So from what are these called? These little, what are these? The arteries?
These are the nerves.
Oh, the nerves, sorry.
The spinal nerves come out in pairs throughout the whole column, and they go to the various parts of the body.
So each nerve is responsible for a certain part or function in the body.
Right.
Like it.
And when we talk about specifically relating it to heart function specifically, we're talking about the autonomic system that controls your heart rate, the regulation of blood flow. If there's compression on the arteries on the first vertebrae, then it's going to disrupt the signals. So what we're looking at are, what are some natural ways that we can actually have this function at an optimum? Because why we want to see, what the studies were actually showing was by removing that interference that arises, we can actually reduce the blood flow up to 17 basis points.
So what are some natural things? I mean, staying away from a pill and just doing it normally. What are some things we can do?
Well, as I said, we want to look at natural ways. We're going to include things like exercise. We're going to include things like dietary. These things we have control over. I mean, there's certain genetic factors that people don't have control over. You could be 20 years old and be having hypertension and have to take hormonal beta blockers because you can't, your body's response to adrenaline is bad. But in these cases, we have control over it. So what I want to emphasize, what people probably don't even realize, is how much your structure can influence your blood pressure if there's pressure on it. So by eliminating that pressure, we have optimum blood flow, we have optimum signals.
Okay, so let's talk about the head, because I'm sure the head, being a major weight on top of the spine, sort of relays to the blood flow.
Exactly.
Okay.
And one of the
Presses
reasons,
down on that spine.
One of the reasons why I brought my little toy over here was to show you how sensitive the head weight would be on the spine. So
careful, bend with your knees.
Bend with the knees. Okay, so does anybody know how much the human head weighs?
The human head weighs 8 pounds.
Jerry Maguire?
Yeah!
It weighs 8 pounds? Yes, okay.
Jerry Maguire.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Okay, so we got a bowling ball. It's an 8-pound bowling ball.
So that's that.
Okay, so we're propping it very balanced on, perching it on a broomstick. The purpose of the demonstration is to show that if we hold the ball up perfectly balanced, we can manage it pretty good, feels pretty even.
Looks nice.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this to both of you, and all I want you to do is to see how little movement you need to rotate it from one side to the other or forward it takes to feel that pressure on your back and your arms. How much more weight it takes to do that. And just sort of tilt it sideways.
Oh, yeah, that's not good. That's not right.
Wow.
This could be a workout, Dr. Bahar.
It is a workout on its own.
Okay.
Ready?
You're going to pass the torch?
I pass the torch.
Hold it higher if it's
hold it
too
high.
heavy.
Okay, I can hardly hold it.
Now just see what happens when you just lean it forward just a little bit.
Whoa.
It's like tripling, quadrupling the simulation of the weight,
It actually increases in
exactly.
in the weight.
And this is the
take this back.
And this is the lesson.
That feels like 20 5 pounds to me, Dr. Guy.
And, and this is one of the ratios.
Morlock.
This is one of the ratios that we try to show when we're demonstrating the damaging effects of forward head posture, for instance. If our head is perched on our spine over here, and it is coming forward, just like the bowling ball is, 1 to 2 inches. The ratio is for every inch forward the head draws, you're increasing the compressive loading on that nerve, on that artery, 15 extra kilograms.
So does that actually restrict the blood flow? Is that
correct?
So it restricts the blood flow, which makes the pressure go up.
Correct. You're going to restrict blood flow, and at the same time, you're also going to alter and restrict the electrical impulses that control the heart rate as well.
So if you're someone out there who is experiencing high blood pressure and you've treated it with medication, but you didn't really know why it was happening, chiropractic might be a great way to sort of look into it further.
Exactly. What I'm specifically trained in is an specific upper cervical technique. This is a technique that was published recently in the Journal of Hypertension, and the study they did, this very double-blind study, and what they did was by adjusting specifically the C1 vertebrae to alleviate pressure off that nerve. In 25 sample cases, they had the blood pressure drop 17 basis points, which they said was the equivalent. They said why it was so impressive was the equivalent of two blood pressure medications taken simultaneously.
Whoa. Good. So get off the meds and start treating.
Well, the big thing is you got to make sure you do this thing really slowly, because you don't just take off the meds.
Got it. Okay. Yes. And for more information, go to Dr. Guy. Don't listen to us. The website is postureclinic.ca. We'll be right back.